Starr on the field, but also the life of Bart Starr the man,
Right.
and his struggles growing up, and his his achievements both on the field and off the field. What are some of the things? I know there's a Noonan connection.
There is a
to
Noonan
this.
connection. You know, it's funny. There are probably people at the audience here who know Bill Headley here locally. He's a good
Yes.
friend of mine, and
Of course.
and Bill and I walk in the early mornings, and we were walking this is about 3 years ago. We were walking in the pre-dawn stillness one morning through our neighborhood, and he yelled out at me. He said, "Did you know about the time Bart Starr came to Noonan?" Well, I didn't. You know, here I am in the early stages of writing this book. Long story short, Bart Starr came to Noonan in 1962 because he had gone to school with someone who was an executive at the Playtex plant here then. And he
Tops for bottoms. I'll never forget it. It was their logo, wasn't it? I know. Sorry, go ahead.
and he comes to Noonan, makes a speech. They raise a bunch of money, and that was the seed money for Drake Stadium.
Wow.
Bart Starr.
And Drake Stadium, of course, Noonan High School's
Right.
Drake Stadium is
Yes.
still one of the I guess the premier places to play football in this area after all those years. That's really a great story.
Great story.
Yeah.
And there are all kinds of local characters who were involved in the narrative, so gives you yet another reason to want to read the book.
Well, one thing you do, Keith, and you and I have a very close friendship, is that you write, as you know, I write fiction, but you write creative nonfiction. And, reading Keith Dunnavant's books is very much like reading a novel, and you set it up in that way. And I know that this one is true to that format. With this, I know that you set the time and place for things, and movies are very much a part of that time and place of Bart Starr. And
Right.
I went through my collection, and I got something that I wanted to show you because I know that it is part of your book. Here is the album from my collection of The Graduate. And The Graduate factors in quite significantly.
It does, and you think about it, here it is. It's one of the climactic moments in this book. It's the end of December 1967. The Green Bay Packers are going for a third consecutive NFL championship, which no one's ever done. And they play a game known now forever as the Ice Bowl. And it was just it was a test of will and overcoming adversity, and it was Bart Starr's finest hour. And I use that as a device that just happens to be that very week, The Graduate opened. And so because the character Benjamin represented this disillusionment among the American youth, Bart Starr was kind of the opposite of Benjamin. And so we that's one of the ways that I like to intersect sports and culture, and that's the way we've done it in
And
America's
you do it.
Quarterback.
You've done it in your previous books, and you've done it in this one. Of course, one of your books was actually about the intersection of media and college football, the 50-year seduction. But the whole thing about sports books in general is that they lend themselves so well to the cinematic medium. They have all of the things that, and one would call them, and I know this is a stretch, but one would call an epic battle between two teams on the football field as an epic of Shakespearean proportions. And you have, of course, a beginning, a middle, and an end, which is the narrative structure that Shakespeare always adopted. But more than that, you have the pathos that almost everyone can identify with. And you have one of the books that was adapted, and of course, The Graduate was a book originally adapted, but one of the books that was adapted that was shot here was The Blind Side. And I know you're a real big fan of The Blind Side.
Oh, it's a terrific book. Michael Lewis, just an outstanding book, and it's really represents, I think, the best of what you're talking about, creative nonfiction. It was a real story, really happened.
It was
And these
great book and great movie too. It was very good.
Oh yeah, I mean Sandra Bullock won the Oscar deservedly for her portrayal of the fierce Southern mother that adopts a boy who really nobody wanted and turns his life around, and really an inspirational story. But Michael Lewis in particular has now another book, Moneyball, that is being adapted into a movie starring Brad Pitt.
I need more money.
We're not New York. Find players with the money that we do have.
I like Perez.
Got an ugly girlfriend. Ugly girlfriend means no confidence.
You guys are talking the same old nonsense like we're looking for Fabio. We got to think differently.
Who's Fabio?
Your goal shouldn't be to buy players. Your goal should be to buy wins. And in order to buy wins, you need to buy runs.
Who are you?
I'm Peter Brand.
First job in baseball?
It's my first job anywhere.
And in Aaron Sorkin, I know you're a very big fan of Aaron Sorkin's
I've met Aaron
writing.
Sorkin. He's a terrific writer and very big fan of his.
And he adapted Moneyball, and it kind of makes sense. You know, the whole Social Network movie that was the Facebook thing, also adapted at least as part of a team by Aaron Sorkin, it's like he's able to adapt reality so well. And so the area of creative nonfiction is really ripe with all of these stories that need to be adapted. And I know that you have several sports books here at Scott's Bookstore, and of course I see there's a copy of Coach.
Of course.
Yeah, one of Keith's original books.
And when Keith comes in, we'll have copies of The Coach and The Missing Ring, both available in paperback.
And The Missing Ring was a book a few years ago by you, Keith, and it was Sports Illustrated's online book of the month
That's
at one
correct.
point,
Yes.
and just a really good seller and very popular book. And Coach was sort of the book that started it all for you, and you
Yes.
have a history with Coach Bryant.
I do. I covered Coach Bryant in Alabama and Auburn in the SEC very young, before I could drive, literally. Had hitch rides when I started covering the SEC, so I do have a history with Coach Bryant, and got to Alabama because of him, and so he's, you might say, a big influence on my life.
And people already know this if they know Keith, but Keith has a number of ventures. He's an entrepreneur, and one of his websites is crimsonreplay.com. It's a historical website devoted to the history of the Alabama football program. In addition, you have just launched something that I know a lot of readers out there or viewers out there will be interested in, College Football Replay, which is a bit broader and covers the entire college football scene. And one of the interviews you have, which will be a lot of local people will be interested in, is that you sat down with Vince Dooley and you talked with Vince Dooley about his recruitment of Herschel Walker. And when I was a kid, Herschel Walker was everything. So people can tune in and definitely listen to that interview. Well, I guess to close this, Miss Scott, I will consult my script. Last year, we sat down with you and we talked about the Dragon Tattoo series.
True.
And, the Stieg Larsson adaptation that was done in 3 parts. There are 3 books. And now we're going to get, as we talked about that year, we talked about the U.S. adaptations, and we're about to get it. It's going to have Daniel Craig as the writer, and it looks really good. And do you have you carry all of the Stieg Larsson books,
We
right?
do, and the last one is still hardcover, the Kick the Hornet's Nest. But people, once they start reading these, they love them, and they continue and read the whole series of books, and they are all...
And there is some talk that there might be another one.
I've heard there's a 4th one, but we don't know yet.
Yeah.
Because I think with the family, it's all trying to be decided if they found a 4th one, if it will be published. But there are a lot of books coming out that are very similar, and one that's coming out tomorrow is called The Keeper of the Lost Causes. And it is being compared to The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It says anybody that loved that book, this is very similar and that they would really enjoy it.
The Keeper of Lost Causes. That sounds
And
pretty
this
interesting.
is a new one, but there have been several new mysteries coming out lately from Swedish writers that are writing very similar to Lawson. So,
the late Larson,
Yes.
and he was such a controversial lightning rod
He
during his
was.
life, and he still remains potent today.
True.
So, well, Miss Scott, I know that you've got a writer coming in next week,
Next week.
on the 31st, and that will be, what are those dates again?
that is August 31st, 3 to 5, with Dot Moore doing the John Wallace book. And then Keith is coming in September the 12th, from 3 to 5.
Wonderful, and we'll be here and talk with Keith at that time. I did my book signing here and was so
Yes.
honored to do that. So Scott's Bookstore in downtown Noonan. It's a place to meet the writers and also buy the books. Thank you guys for joining us this week. Thank you, Keith. I know America's Quarterback is really going to be your finest hour. I mean, the quotes that I've heard already from other people who have read the book that are in the know about sports books have been extremely high on this book. So we're expecting great
We're
things.
looking forward to it.
Absolutely. You've been watching The Film Fix. I'm Jonathan W. Hickman. Of course, we were joined by Earlene Scott of Scott's Bookstore and noted sports author Keith Dunnavant, whose book America's Quarterback is going to be released in September and is available for pre-order if you are so inclined. Of course, I'm sure Miss Scott will take pre-orders as well, so you can come by Scott's Bookstore and buy the book. And if you want to join us online, you can go to dailyfilmfix.com, where you can feed your movie addiction.
You are the soul of the age.
None of your poems or your plays will ever carry your name.
Promise me you'll keep our secret safe.